Assalamu alaikum. I would like to welcome everybody to our panel discussion, The Role of Faith in Social Justice. We have been working on this panel for a little while now. I wanted to provide an opportunity to discuss what social justice, what independence looks like for us, the African American Muslim community, on this day of celebration of independence. So we have an esteemed panel, and here we'd like to welcome everybody to Masjid Muhammad, the nation's mosque, located in Washington, D.C. And this event is being live streamed. So if anyone wants to share the link to anyone who might be watching, who might be at home, it's thenationsmosque.org/watch. You can send that link to your friends, and you can provide them with the opportunity to watch this program. This Masjid Muhammad dates back to the 1930s and is led by Imam Talib Sharif, who is the resident imam here at this community. I am Hamid Saahir. I am one of the board of directors for Masjid Muhammad, and I'd like to introduce Imam Mahdi Bray. He is a long-time social justice advocate, long-time Muslim and fighter for our cause. We have Sister Inshirah Aleem. She's from Springfield, Massachusetts, and currently resides in Greenbelt. She is part of our education team here at Masjid Muhammad. She is a psychologist and works in the field of education, and is a board member of the Muslim Wellness Foundation. We have special education teacher to add that in. We have Minister Carlos Muhammad of Muhammad's Mosque number 6 in Baltimore, Maryland, of the Nation of Islam. Brother Carlos and the brothers here were instrumental in helping bring calm to the city of Baltimore during the Uprising. Brother Carlos is a historian of the Nation of Islam, and Glaz's my brother. So what's going to happen tonight? We have our panelists are going to speak and present, and we're going to provide you all with the opportunity to ask questions to them in regards to their speech. And we're going to start with Imam Mahdi. Thank you all, and assalamu alaikum.
Can it just be open? Is it okay? Is that possible?
That's fine.
Thank you. Is that word? If it doesn't, I'll hold it.
That's fine.
Okay? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praises, all adoration, all glorification we reserve for our sovereign Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All that is seen and unseen glorifies the majesty of our sovereign Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Allah in a pure and abundant manner, recognizing fully that He is our creator and not we ourselves. I'll greet you, my dear brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. Our topic is about social justice. I'll try to make this really short, like a Kardashian's wedding. This won't be long. So we're going to just move right on along. And let me just say this. The best speech really is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now Allah has said to us in His glorious Quran, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, was. And Allah said, Ilalladhina amanu wa amala salahati, wa tawassaw bil haqqi, wa tawassaw bil sabr. By the token of time, verily all of humanity is in loss, except for those who have faith. Listen to that one again. Who has faith, do good deeds, and join together in the mutual teachings of truth, patience, and constancy. I like this word sabr because it talks about patience, but it doesn't just sitting around waiting. It means persistence, striving, pushing, going for it. You know, I really think this issue of justice is important, and I would just try to move to another personal note that what inspired me to take my Shahada was something I read in a Yusuf Ali translation of the Holy Quran that was given to me when I was a student at Florida A&M. And I can remember that growing up in Norfolk, Virginia, that our house was firebombed by the Klan. Now, people talk about terrorism in 9/11, but we've been knowing terror in this country for a long time before 9/11. Not only as African Americans, but we've been knowing it, the Native Americans, we've known it for a long time. You know, and I can remember our house was firebombed because my grandfather was working with Dr. King doing voting rights, and he was paying the poll tax, which was a disenfranchisement law that kept black people from voting, you know, giving out economic conditions and trying to do everything they possibly could to keep us from voting. And I remember we were watching on a television on a Saturday night on a Bendex television. Now I'm telling my age. For you who don't know what a Bendex television is, it has a cabinet about that big and a screen about that big. And we were watching Gunsmoke. And just all of a sudden, the side of the house lit up with fire. And there was the Klan outside. And also, in addition to that, they were shooting buckshots into our windows. And I remember my grandmother grabbing me and my 5-year-old brother and throwing us down on the ground and laying her body over us to protect us. And I can remember still to this day, because, you know, we didn't have carpet, we had linoleum. And Grandma kept it clean with Johnson wax. And I can still smell the smell of that wax, you know, in my nose. And they were outside shooting. And even though my grandfather worked Dr. King, we had people that really understood what to do. So, because we didn't call the police or the firemen and ask for protection, because they were the ones who were outside doing the shooting and doing the burning. So my cousins, my uncles, and the neighbors, they got their shotguns and ran them off and dealt with them at that particular time. So I mention this because I wondered myself as a young boy, what would it be that somebody would want to shoot us and burn us simply because of the color of our skin? What kind of madness would possess someone to want to do that? You know, and as I said before, I was inspired as I continued this quest for justice. I remember reading at a Quran that was given to me as a student, and in it was Surah Rahman, chapter 55, they call it. And it says that Allah has set the scales of justice high in the firmaments in order that we not transgress. Therefore establish just weights and fall not short in the balance. The Arabic word mizan is used for balance. And we should understand here that without justice, there's no balance. What did it say, Brother Carlos? Justice or else.
That's right.
You know, without justice, there is no balance. So we have to have justice. And we have to continue to strive for justice. Allah commands us and says, O ye who believe, stand for justice. Justice is given us as a calling. It's our calling to be able to deal with justice. And so therefore we have this obligation to stand for justice. And this is something that we have to do. And I would just say this, that we should do this, not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity. Not just for ourselves. Remember, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet Muhammad, he was an orphan who adopted all of humanity. And consequently, he stood for justice for everyone. When there was hunger, he didn't ask if it were, who was hungry. Was it a Muslim who was hungry? He wanted to know who was hungry and what do we have to feed them. And so therefore, we have the example of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who dealt with need, not creed. You see, so he was able to share this justice and go for this justice for everyone. So we have this responsibility. There's a saying within the Christian tradition, faith without work is dead. So we have to make sure that we're standing for justice. I won't keep going, but I will say, basically I think that I would like to at least give some type of, leave some type of kernel of advocacy that we could do for justice. And one of the things I think is that we need to learn how to continue to pass the torch. I grew up in the SNCC movement. My protege was Kwame Ture, better known as Stokely Carmichael, and Imam Jamil Aleem, better known as H. Rap Brown. And also with SNCC was also there, we had the former mayor of Washington, D.C., Mariam Bray. And we had in our midst Ella Baker, who realized that we got to keep young people and give them something to do. See, we're always talking about youth. They're the future. They're the future. They're the future. As if they're in some Star Wars movie in some distant, far-off galaxy. No, youth are the now. They're right here now. They have issues now. They have things they can do now, and we need to engage them now, right now. And so I would just pass that on as terms of best practice, is that we need to be busy with young people. We have a group of young people that have been busy. They were there standing and backing Brother Carlos and the nation. Were there in Baltimore dealing what was happening in Baltimore and so like that. So we have to make sure that we're engaging our young people. And therefore, also as not only our young people, but yes, us who are there, Allah has blessed us with age. We need to be engaged. We need to do something. I cannot help but notice that indeed most Muslim children attend public school, but yet our parents don't go to the PTA meetings. They don't go and engage in terms of what's happening in our school systems. So it's incumbent upon us as elders to do things, to be involved. We got to be involved. We got to stand up. And I will just kindly conclude with a little short story. I remember hearing a story about the young man who traveled overseas. And as he traveled overseas, he saw in a pet store this beautiful bird. And this bird has beautiful plumage. And he went inside and asked the shopkeeper. He says, "Sir, that bird is amazing. How much is that bird?" And he showed him the price tag of the bird. And he said, "Wow, that much money? Why so much money for this bird?" And the shopkeeper said, "My dear young man, this bird is a remarkable bird. This bird can speak 7 different languages." And the young man said, "What?" He says, "Yes, 7 different languages." And so the young man quickly purchased the bird, shipped it home to his mom, with a note, and said, Mom, I'm sending you this remarkable bird. Well, the thing was that when he sent the bird, it was right around Thanksgiving time, you know, and so when he arrived home and he inquired immediately, Mom, what about that bird I sent you, that beautiful bird that I sent you, shipped you from overseas, you know, what about that bird? She said, son, the bird? Oh, son, we ate the bird. He said, what? He said, we ate the bird. We finished the bird along with the pumpkin pie. And he said, Mom, you ate this bird? Mom, but why would you eat this bird? This bird can speak 7 different languages. Mom said, well, he should have said something. And the moral of the story is this, is we don't speak up. As Dr. King says, we have to, there's a time when silence is betrayal. If we don't speak up, if we remain quiet in the face of injustice, then we will be eaten just like that bird. We'll be eaten by racism, you know, Islamophobia, and all the isms and schisms there are will be eaten if we don't stand up and speak up. So we have to stand up and speak up, because if we don't, then things happen like they do happen. You know, for instance, if we don't get civic engaged and speak up and stand up for our rights, then we'll find ourselves all of a sudden that we have a criminal justice system where the rich get bail and sale, and the poor and black and brown get jail and hell. See, if we don't speak up, we find that our tax dollars that we spend go not for education, you know, and jobs, and not for education, but for war and destruction and devastation. And we spend money, billions of dollars, on a military industrial complex where we build smart bombs and send them out on dumb missions and try to recruit young people to go out and die for bad things. And speaking of the 4th of July, I hope everybody has a chance to read Frederick Douglass' comments on the 4th of July. You know, what is the 4th of July to a slave? See, I think we need to go ahead and revisit that, you know, in terms of the 4th of July, where we have all this merrymaking about the 4th of July. So I just think that's something that we should do. So if we don't speak up, we will find ourselves engaged in all kinds of things that are happening in terms of our society. So we must be engaged. And the time, I see you looking at the time, and that,
no, you're fine.
And I don't want to belabor here too long, but I do want to say this, that indeed we have to be active. We have to speak out. Dr. King said when, you know, everybody loved King until he took a stand on Vietnam, like Muhammad Ali. You know, he took a stand and said, I'm not going to go and stand. He says, you know, basically, he said, why should I go and fight overseas and give my life, you know, and I can't even get freedom right here at home. You know, see, so Muhammad Ali understood what was going on in terms of a social justice system that won't provide jobs, a social justice system that failed Freddie Gray in Baltimore. You know, I went to Baltimore and I looked there, and the educational system is crumbling just like the houses, but they live in large on the harbor.
That's right.
And guess what? That was our tax dollars. You know, this is our tax dollars that paid for this war and destruction and paid for these bombs that drops, you know, and these what they call the drones and everything. Our tax dollar paid for that. So we gotta say something about it, but not only say something about it, we gotta do something about it. We gotta be about it. So I'm gonna just go ahead and leave it there. I'm gonna let other people go ahead and give some time to people to talk and give time for Q&A. So I'll just stop it right there.
Thank you. You take the mic, or are you going to hold it?
Oh, I'll
Which
take the
one?
mic. It's okay.
Okay.
Very beautiful and inspirational, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for those words. Assalamu alaikum. Hi. Yes, very blessed to be here today. So, I'm going to talk about social justice, specifically in the realm of mental health education. When I think of social justice, just like the Imam said, I think of balance and I think of equality. And when I think of social justice and mental health education, I realize that there's an imbalance of what we're consuming and what we're subconsciously and consciously feeding each other. So today we're going to address some of the imbalances that we see, why we see them, and how we can move forward and try to promote and combat the stigma, which is a result of mental health education and the imbalance within the system. So we're going to go to class. Are we ready to start class?
Let's go.
All right. So I need some participation. Are we ready to participate?
Yeah. Ready.
Okay. I don't have any goodies, but, I have education and knowledge. All right, so I need you to raise your hand if you feel that this statement is true or if it's false. First we'll do true, and then we'll do false, okay? So I have a couple of statements. Are we ready? Yeah. Okay. Having mental health issues is the same as having a mental illness. Is that true? Okay, you say it's true. Is it false? Okay. So a couple false, couple true. Okay. So we're going to go over each of these. Okay. Having a mental illness can deteriorate the quality of your life. Who says true? Okay. So that's the majority. Any false? Okay, no false. All right. There isn't a cure for mental illness. Who says true? False? Any false? Okay, majority false. Okay, all right. People living with mental illness can successfully work and maintain a positive life. True. Okay, majority true. Okay. People with mental illness are always angry and violent. False. Okay. Is there anyone who has a true? Okay, I'm pushing you a little bit. All right. Medicine is the most effective treatment of mental illness. Okay. All right. People with mental illness are more likely to be victims of violent crimes. So a couple truths, any false? Okay. All right. There are over 200 different types of mental illnesses. True. Okay. Some true, some false. All right. So let's see. Let's see how you guys passed. All right. So these are the facts, and this is the myth. The myth of having a mental health issue is the same as having a mental illness. That is actually false. Everybody has mental health. I mean, it's just our social and emotional well-being. So if we have a mental health issue, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have a mental illness. Now, the tricky part is if you have a mental illness, yes, you have a mental health issue. But a mental illness is a specific disease that you have that impacts your well-being. So there's a difference. So that is false. People with mental illness are always angry and violent. That is false. 3% to 5% of individuals with mental illness commit violent acts. So that means that 97% of people who are committing these violent acts are not mentally ill. Medicine is the most effective treatment of mental illness. That is false. There are a lot of different treatment plans. Sometimes medicine is effective, sometimes it's not. It depends on the individual and the course that they want to take. Having mental health issues, I have that on there twice. Okay, so the facts. This is the truth. Having a mental illness can deteriorate the quality of your life. It can. But the good thing is that there are many resources and there are treatment plans and there's recovery, and it's possible for you to live a positive life if you are diagnosed with a mental illness. It's not the end of the world by any means. The fact, there isn't a cure for mental illness. That is true. Mental illness is a long life disorder or a disease that impacts your life. But with recovery and with a treatment plan, you can live a successful life. But there is no cure for it. People living with mental illness can successfully work. We discussed that, yes. There are over 200 different types of mental illnesses. There are a lot of them. So when people have this idea of what one mental illness looks like, We have to be mindful that there are many different mental illnesses, and then even within those mental illnesses, there are different forms or variants of that mental illness. So we can't have one idea of what a mental illness exactly is, because there are many different forms. So it's important for us to be mindful of that. And people with mental illness are more likely to be victims of violent crimes. People with mental illness are 10 times more likely to be a victim, not the perpetrator, the victim of a violent crime. So we have to remember that. Okay? Thank you. So the power of stigma. According to a survey, about 90% of individuals feel that they are impacted by stigma. So we're going to look at, what does stigma do? So basically, stigma can isolate people. When you feel that you are not the same as someone else, when you feel that you are different, when you feel that society tells you that you are wrong for having something, you do not want to engage with other people. You want to stay isolated. And this is an injustice, right? Because if we are thinking about justice, you're thinking about everyone has the equal opportunity. Everyone has equal access to life and the things that are given to us. But many people with mental illness, they are isolated. They're excluded from day-to-day activities. Stigma stops people from getting jobs. 1/3 of the population of people with mental illness are either dismissed or forced to resign from their jobs. Stigma prevents people from seeking help. Many people do not seek help because they are afraid of what people say or going to say. They're afraid of what their families will say. They're afraid of feeling like they're too weak, and that actually asking for help is a bad thing and not a good thing. Why? Why do we feel that? Why do people feel this way? What is going on in society? What are the messages that we are consuming that allows us to feel this way? So a lot of the messages that we're getting from the public is by movies. And actually, 50% of the public have seen a movie, and the person with mental illness is violent. So, and the majority of people feel that because of this image, that people with mental illness are violent. About 50% of the people polled felt that people with mental illness are violent based on what they see on a day-to-day basis in movies. When something happens in the media, as we've heard with Sandy Hook and all these horrible atrocities, and someone may have a mental illness, they over-dramatize it. They focus on the mental illness. They don't necessarily focus on the full picture. They don't focus on the fact that 95% of people with mental illness are not violent. They don't focus on that. They focus on the fact that, oh, they had this mental illness, and that's the reason why they are doing what they are doing. The media downplays success stories. The media doesn't talk about the people who, like myself, are having, who go around and combat stigma and are advocates. They don't, and I myself live with a mental illness. They don't talk about those stories. And those stories are more than less. And the focus is on this over-dramatization of violence and killing and all these things they're depicting mental illness as. So let's look at the role of faith. This is one of my favorite ayats. I'll read it. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of God is he who is the most righteous of you. So when I think of this ayat, I think of how we all have light within us. That's our original nature, our fitra, that we have light in us, and that Allah created us to know each other and to know our essence, and we have the ability to see each other's light. So when I think of the injustices that are going on with mental health and the role of faith, I think we have to take the time to understand each other's lights, understand that we all have gifts, understand that no matter what society may be telling you, that there's a reason for what that person is doing, and that we have to take the time to show compassion and understand people's different gifts and lights, and whatever type of illness that they have. I think of the story of the prophet, and I'm sure many of you know the story about the woman that was throwing trash on the prophet and how he ended up going and taking care of her. people with mental illness aren't throwing trash on us. We need to have compassion. We need to have compassion and try to understand. And sometimes, on the adverse side, the role of faith can be a barrier for people. In the African American community, we are strong. We've been through a lot. Slavery, the Nation of Islam. We have been through a lot as a people. And sometimes that strength can be a detriment and a barrier to getting help. Because somehow in our psyche, strength says, okay, well, I don't need to get any help. If I get help, I'm therefore weak. And what I say to that is that if you have diabetes or if you have cancer, would you not seek help? Would you not go to a doctor? Would you just feel like you're weak because you have this disorder? No. Many of us will pray, we'll do what we have to do, we'll connect to Allah, but we will also go see a doctor. And that is the same thing that we should do when we have a mental illness. It is disease. We should go seek help. Doesn't mean that you're weak, not at all. It means that you have the courage to do what society tells you you shouldn't do, or what society tells you it is wrong to do. I think this is a video. Can you turn it up? Oh, it's not playing. Okay. It's okay. Technical difficulties. It's okay. So I can just talk briefly while they're trying to work that out. Some of what I do, I work with various organizations and tell my story about mental health and my story about mental illness. And I share my story, and I take the courage to share my story because I feel it's important to share success stories. I was 14. And I suffered from a severe form of bipolar disorder. I had hallucinations, I had paranoia, and I was in the hospital for about 3 months. And from that, and I went through a lot of different recovery and treatment plans, and as a result, I stand before you. I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, alhamdulillah, through the support of my family, through the guidance of Allah. I have written a book. And I go around in many different places, mosques, panel discussions, and I share my story, and I share the truth of mental illness, because it's here. 1 out of 5 of us will have a mental health issue or will have a mental illness. 1 out of 5. So that means somebody in this room, other than me, most likely has a mental health issue. And we have to start talking about this. We have to start talking about this because it's here. It's okay. You don't have to. We go on. Oh. Okay. Then we can just end with the video. I think the video speaks for itself.
Why did I do that? Why are they looking at me? Why am I so weird? Don't eat that. You can't eat that. It's just a human head. This isn't real. It's all in your head. You're imagining it. Why am I so weird? Pay attention. Pay attention. Listen. Fix it. It's not right. Fix it. You need to fix it. It's not right. Straighten it out. This isn't real. It's all in your head. Straighten it out. There is something wrong with you.
Thank you, Sister Inshirah.
Give our sister a round of applause. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salat wa salam ala Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Dear brothers and sisters, once again, assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. I'm very thankful and grateful to Allah. Alhamdulillah. I'm once again here at the nation's Masjid. For the past 4 years, some kind of way, I ended up during the month of Ramadan in this historic Masjid mosque erected by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his dedicated followers, many of whom still reside here at this beautiful edifice. So as Ramadan was nearing its end, as Allah would have it, we made it just in time. So alhamdulillah, I want to thank Brother Hamid and of course Imam Talib Sharif and all of the believers here at Masjid Muhammad. And of course we were expecting our Imam Amin Nathari. Due to travel, he could not make it, but when I got his email and saw that Imam Mahdi was going to be here, I knew, as Amin said, we would be in good hands, but I was overexcited because Imam Mahdi is a great jewel in Islam for us, and if you're not following him on Twitter and getting to know him and his works, I would recommend that you do so, because young brothers like myself have learned and is still learning from great men like him. So he's not a fill-in because Allah wanted it to be this way. But I know he speaks in the spirit of Imam Nathari. And to my sister Inshirah, this is beautiful in what you have presented, because everything that we really go through every day, somebody's trying to look at us from the mental aspect. It's sometimes always viewed as what you do to others. But what we do to others is normally affected by what has been done to us. And until many of the things that have broken us is repaired, then we have the heart to help people, but we can't help them properly because we're messed up ourselves. But this is the beauty of Islam. And this is the beauty of the message of the Quran, that it is able to speak to our humanity and repair our broken souls and put us back on the natural progression that Allah, the Most High, brought us into existence for in the first place. We read in the Quran that man is only what he strives for. And so if we don't strive for anything, we will never gain anything. But we also see in the wisdom of the Quran in his creation of the human being is that he created the human being for unlimited progress. So when we are looking at where we are and where we're trying to go, most of it is because we're in our own way. So bringing us back to La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, bringing us back to the science of our prayer, that when we take Shahada, we're surrendering. We're really surrendering what we think we are and surrendering to the power of the Almighty. And in that, we come back into our fitra or our nature or our deen. I have to say, in my few moments, I apologize. I normally carry all my technologically hookups and things like that, but I cleaned out my briefcase and left them at the mosque. We had a beautiful presentation there last weekend with the women in Islam, so I didn't put my things back in my briefcase because I like to use visuals too. But I'll do my best to paint that picture for you based on our understanding of history when we talk about faith in dealing with social justice. To talk about social justice, we also have to commonly point out the injustices. In some kind of way, I find that no matter what we have done to come up, and no matter what has been done that has brought us up, the African American or black people find ourselves always being in a position to have to apologize for where we come from. And it's almost as if we have to constantly seek legitimacy to be who we are. So first, we want to be legitimized to say that we're equal with other people that have treated us with so much injustice. So we find ourselves that when we come into power, we start apologizing to the very people that brutalized us. Then we find religion. We find God. And you would think that God in his own power has a right to legitimize us, but yet we still need others to legitimize our religion. So we're not real Muslims unless other ethnic groups legitimize our Islam. We can't say that we're black and Muslim, and we can't say black Muslim together without having to defend the position, because the very people will tell us Islam has no color. I believe that because with Allah, he doesn't look at color, though he says in the Quran he's the best at coloring. But the reality is, if their color does not matter in Islam, then why did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam have to tell his own people at the very end that we must take a look, that there should be no superiority of the Arab over the non-Arab, and over the light or the dark and the black, and all of this had to be addressed, because there's a tendency sometimes when God gives you power, we start believing that we're more superior than somebody else. So we suffer injustices right in the very religion that we love ourselves. And so we have to be sympathetic towards all injustice, not just towards Muslim injustice, but Muslims are sensitive to go towards all injustice, because that's what our Prophet taught us to look at, that wherever there would be an injustice, a Muslim should correct it right then and there. But yet we find in today's time and standard that even Muslims become weak. And as Imam Mahdi said, we don't stand. We start thinking about our personal gains. Well, I don't want to ruffle the feathers. I don't want to bring too much attention. Islam is a hated religion. I'm a Muslim, but I'm going to be a quiet Muslim because I don't want to disturb the psyche of people. Well, the shaitan is disturbing the psyche of people. And Allah gave us the Quran through Muhammad, peace and prayers be upon him, to correct that situation. So when we look at Baltimore, and I'm going to go backwards, I normally work on a timeline as a historian. I go from the earliest and bring it forward, but I'm going to start and go backwards. What we may have seen in the Freddie Gray uprising, let me be very clear. Baltimore was not Ferguson. It wasn't Ferguson. Because our uprising lasted about 8-9 hours. But the way it was put on TV, they kept that image of that burning CVS going so long, you thought the building was on fire for days. They showed you images of other places maybe burning. You would have thought those buildings were burning for days. No, that melee that you saw out in the street in the community was contained within a certain level of square block radius, and that was only about 6 hours long. So the next day, once the debris was cleared and once the good citizens came out and started cleaning up the neighborhood, just within a few hours, you wouldn't have known that it even happened. But that's what media does to us. It poisons us with images. And let me say something to you about that imagery. Oh yeah, it was crazy and wild. And for those that grew up in the 60s, and Imam Mahdi said it, he had his own personal testimony of what was done. Minister Farrakhan said when he was a young minister, they firebombed his house. Malcolm X's story of how the Klan firebombed and killed his father. So this is a long line of injustices. But the point I'm trying to make is, when you came up in the 60s and people throwing Molotov cocktails and things going up in smoke, and the riots of Newark and Watts and other places, and Baltimore had a little uprising in 1968 at the death of Dr. King, my generation know nothing about that until April 27, 2015, Baltimore erupted. And you may have seen the brothers from the Nation of Islam, myself, out in the middle of all of that chaos. And it wasn't that we were out there in the middle of it because we really thought we were some superheroes that could go out there and wave our hands and stop what was going on. No, it's just the mantra of what we believe in said, we can't sit by and watch an injustice happen and watch it on television. We got to get out there, even if it means dying with our people. That's the spirit of Muhammad. That's why we are instructed in the Quran that yes, we believe, and yes, we should keep our duty. However, do not die. Do not die unless we die in a state of submission. Some translations say death of a Muslim, but we know what we mean. Now, can we read that on Friday and most of the khutbahs in the tradition that ayat is, recited? I mean, are we just saying that? Or are we willing to go into a situation even if it means that we don't come out? But all that matters to me is if Allah calls me back to himself, I just want to be known that I went back in a state of belief. And also those that were around me that knew me would say he's a good Muslim. That's what's most important. All of us have the intention to go to Hajj. Many have gone to Hajj and blessed to come back. But many go to Hajj, they don't come back. Not because they decided to stay there. Some of them get stuck there too like that. However, some go there to die. Some go there not to die, but know they can die and die due to tragic circumstances. A stampeding takes place. However, but even in that, they return to Allah as a believer. So I'm saying all of this to say that we didn't take to the street thinking more of ourselves than what we should. We just saw that the police was out there with weapons, and our little brothers was out there looking like Palestine, throwing rocks at tanks. And they were literally at a certain point going to shoot our babies down in the street because enough was enough. And so we said that we were willing to die for our people. Then now Allah was testing us on that. We've always stated that our prayers, our sacrifice, our life and our death is all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. And since we say that as Muslims, doesn't Allah have a right to challenge us and test us on that? Let me see if you really believe that. Let me put you in the circumstance to see whether or not that would happen. And as Allah is my witness, I'll speak personally for myself. When we got out there and saw things blowing up and things being thrown and projected around you and all kind of armament being pointed at us, and I mean it was tremendous. But you know what happened? Allah sent his angels to protect us, and he put our minds in a state where even though all of that was going on around us, it was not affecting the reason and the intention for why we went. So I never thought about I could die. Not one time. I never thought about my wife or my children, which would have been natural to do. There's nothing wrong with that, but it never happened. I joke, I didn't think about my sneaker collection. Yeah, I didn't, Jamil. I didn't think about it. But you say, what sneaker? Wait a minute, minister. You got a sneaker? Yeah, I got a sneaker collection. I'm human just like you. You like what you like, I like what I like. But the thing is, I didn't think about things that meant something to me. That's what I'm saying. And when I looked at the brothers, many of them sitting here, and I looked into their faces, and I saw no fear. No fear. Nobody looking like, hey man, we got to get up out of here. This is crazy. Everybody stood together. And you know what happened? The brothers and sisters that were out there throwing things began to ask, what do you want us to do? I saw many of my young brothers that I work with in the juvenile justice system, because we're talking about social justice, right? Social justice starts with loving somebody. Social justice starts with seeing somebody in need and offering to them their healing that they need. Starts with love. So many of them little brothers that are pulling the triggers and acting wild in the community, I mentored them in the justice system where they were locked up, but now they were on the streets throwing bricks. And then when they saw us and saw the brother captain from the mosque, they said, Brother Muhammad, what do you want us to do? I want you to put them bricks down and come with me. Christians came out. Other community people came out. And when they saw the Muslims taking a stand, they got the strength to take a stand too. And we didn't ask, hey man, what masjid do you go to? What mosque? What's your mabdab? Are you a Muslim? We didn't ask what church you go to. We didn't ask any of that. We united because unity doesn't mean sameness. So we got together for what was the common goal. And within a few hours, what they won't tell you is that we brought that epicenter to rest. The people began to obey. The girls and the children were out there. That was the other phenomenon, to watch little babies with toys, with all this going on. I said, oh sister, take that baby in there. And we begin to tell the women, get off the street. And they begin to obey. Then other men that were not Muslims or in the Nation of Islam, they begin to do the same. Sisters, get off the street. All the women off the street. Take the babies in. One sister pulled up next to me with a case of simply orange juice. You remember Brother Willie? She was dragging the case. That probably came out of the burning CVS. And I'm thinking, you know, okay, sister got us some orange juice. She's going to go ahead and take it. And she had a baby with her. Orange juice in one hand, baby in her arm. And she pulled up right next to me, my brother laughing, because this is a true story. And I looked at the sister, and she went in the Simply Orange Juice, pulled up a bottle, and threw it at the police. Boom! I said, oh no, sister. Don't throw the orange juice at the police. Take that orange juice home for your baby. And she looked at me. And she took the rest of the orange juice and went on down the street. My point is, as Muslims, we have the sobering message of justice. But the sobering message of justice does not put us into a position of weakness. But it puts us in a vanguard position that allows us to take control of an environment and bring that environment into submission to us. I'll close with this, because I know we're getting close and you want to ask some questions, maybe Hamid of the audience. I'll close with this. The thing that they don't report in that melee is that there was no loss of life. None. There wasn't one casualty. Had that been in other places, or had it gone longer, that would have been the reality. So my teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, called me on the phone shortly after we had come out the street, and he said, brother, I just watched you and the brothers out on the street on live television, and you looked absolutely beautiful. That's a strange thing to say, you look beautiful, but I understood my teacher. We look beautiful not because we were dressed pretty. We look beautiful because we were out there doing what we said we would do. Fight for our people, and if willing, die. He says, but I want you to be cautious now because the military is coming, and these are real killers because they're trained to kill, and they're not coming there to protect people. They're coming in there to protect property. He says, so it's not a good idea to be out there after a certain hour. If need be, you wait till a better time to go back out there. You've done your work and done the best that you can. But thank you for standing up for our people. See? Alhamdulillah. So, lastly, in April of 1972, April 14th to be exact, the police department attacked our mosque, then number 7 is Malcolm Shabazz Masjid now. And they attempted to run into our mosque with weapons, which they already knew was a no-no in those days. And they were met with brothers who were there to protect that holy house and the people in it, mainly our children and women who were there conducting the school for the day. And they met a power that they didn't know existed. What was the power? Men and followers and believers in Allah that had no fear. But more important, the people that lived around that mosque or masjid, when they heard what was going on and saw what was going on, I would have showed you the images. They took to the street by the tens of thousands and said, no. What are you doing to these people? These are our people. And where's Minister Farrakhan? Is he okay? Because we ain't leaving and we not going to stop doing what we doing until we see his face. They were willing to tear the whole thing down. Why? Because of injustice. So when we give dawah to the people, we don't have to worry about who would come and defend our faith. If we do the right work that Allah has ordered us to do, you'll find just how much of an influence the nation's masjid is in this community. Can nobody just come up here? A year ago, somebody said that they was going to come and protest out inside the masjid, and law enforcement was contacted so they could to guarantee the security of the people coming to the masjid. Man, that's nice, but we protect our own. Nobody going to come up here and do anything to us because we always going to watch. Lastly, from day one of the establishment of our community in its seminal stages that has evolved into many beautiful forms, in 1934, we had to fight. We had to fight. I wish I could show you these pictures of the actual fight over our school in 1934. But afterward, you can come up and look at my iPad. I'll show it to you. But we fought, and we didn't get weak. We kept on going. And you know what? You wouldn't have a Sister Clara Muhammad School, or Muhammad University of Islam today, or Islamic schools run by African American Muslims, had those believers not fought and stood. And when them brothers went to court to be arraigned, they didn't raise their hand. They stood in the position of dua because they refused to raise their hand and put their hand on the Bible and swear. They were fighting for justice. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was arrested right in this city. We didn't get weak. The women, the children, the believers went right to the police station to get him out. Why? Standing up for justice. In 1957, Brother Johnson Hinton was attacked by the police. And we didn't get weak. We didn't sit down. Malcolm X got the believers together and we went down to the police station and demanded that our brother, our Muslim brother, get medical attention. They had never seen nothing like that. And in 1960, when they kicked in the door and shot down the door of a beautiful Muslim family from Mosque number 7, we ended up winning that case, and an all-white jury relieved us of the charges. Why? Because they had never seen a people stand up for like that, but more importantly, they didn't understand that Allah was on our side. April 27, 1962, the police attacked our temple in Los Angeles, number 27 on 56 and Broadway, and killed our secretary, Brother Ronald T.X. Stokes. Paralyzed Brother William 12X Ansar. Put him in a wheelchair and shot our brothers up, but we didn't get weak. We stood up and we kept fighting until justice was served. Muhammad Ali declared his faith, And they persecuted him for that. And really, in truth, we all celebrated just a few weekends ago, but you don't hear nothing about Ali now. You don't hear nothing. Why? Because the same people that say he was the greatest American hero now were the same people talking about he should have been dead. That he was anti-American. And that he was guilty of treason. But you know why Ali will never die among us? Because we won't let him. His soul has returned to Allah. But what he stood for, we're standing on right now. So it's much that we need to learn about social justice, but social justice really starts right in the mosque and extending from the mosque in the broader community and for the ummah as a whole. So my leader, Minister Farrakhan, said, you know what? The Muslim world has something to learn from this experience of the Nation of Islam and the community of W.D. Muhammad, Rahimullah alayh. And what is that? Two communities that naturally has differences. But the one thing we never did, we never shed each other's blood. But to watch our world of Islam, Muslim on one side, Muslims on the other side with weapons, and both saying Allahu Akbar, and to go gunning each other down. Where's that in the Sunnah? Where's that in the Quran? So we are an example of what a group that can have differences but still love each other enough never to even fathom shedding each other's blood over theological differences. Because see, Allah will work all of that out in the end, because He's our haq. He's the truth. So I hope that I shed something, and I hope I said something that will allow us to see that we're fighting injustices on all fronts, but the social justice that we need among ourselves as Muslims need to stop having this hatred of one another and begin to love each other so that we can bring back the nur that Allah has given us instead of being victims of the nar, the fire. Because now in the West, we're the light shining back to the East, whether we like it or not. Thank you. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Give a round of applause again to our panelists. The mic is available for anybody who has questions right now. I have a few questions myself to get the questions started. And it's for email Mahdi. And Ralph, can you stand up for everybody to see you? If you have a question, you can see him. He has the microphone. Imam Mahdi, how you mentioned engaging our youth in the role of social justice to push our communities forward, and you mentioned the term right now. What ways do you think we can engage our youth right now?
Oh, absolutely. We have a project right now that we're engaged with. It's, actually, we're not reinventing the wheel. I mean, it was actually John Lewis and kind of our elders laid the way for us. But we have a Freedom Summer going on right now where we're registering people across this country going to college campuses, roving college campuses, and our hashtag is Souls to the Polls. And basically what we're doing, we're saying we're going to keep on for the right to vote, And so consequently, because think about that. People sometimes, they're very indifferent about this idea of voting, It's not a panacea to all of our ills, A professor in political science one time, I asked a question about politics. He said, politics is the authoritative allocation of resources. Well, what does he mean? It means that it decides who gets what, when, and how much. And basically, that's what's going, that's what we need to be engaged with. So our young people are actually having involved in Freedom Summer by going on college campuses, basically registering our young people to vote, because we're going to tell these Islamophobes and these bigots, and all of them, in November we remember, So We're engaged in that, and also our young people are engaged in something what we call speak out rallies. Because you got to again, you got to engage young people. You can't just let young people just sit around. Because they're not with that. They got something they want to do something. So basically, we need to continue to remind people that our young people are not thugs. They're not terrorist suspects. They're this nation's brightest prospects. And therefore, we need to go ahead and let them be involved. So we have speak-outs on college campuses where young people, through the spoken word, sometimes it's through their oratorial skills, and so on, and they're speaking out on issues involving social justice, on issues involving the criminal justice system, on issues involving the right to vote, the voting right. Think about it. Why did they bomb our home? Why did they kill people? Why did they beat John Lewis almost to death on a bridge? Simply because people wanted to vote. If voting was just insignificant, then why would they go through all of this? So basically, our young people are involved in what we call basically our rallies against hate and bigotry. And we're creating, as Imam Khalis Muhammad indicated, that we're working because it's justice is for everybody. When it comes to justice, Allah is the equal opportunity employer. You see, so basically we're building a strong coalition with Black Lives Matters, other groups. We're building a strong coalition with our Latino brothers and sisters, with our Native American brothers and sisters. People talk about Pocahontas, and Donald Trump, talk about Pocahontas, saying that's racist. Yeah, that's racist, but you know what's racist? It's also racist to call the Washington football team a racist name and use the term redskin. How we go for that? How we fall for that trick? Basically, if we understood what that word, the origins of that word, what it meant, they paid people. They were paying them when they would kill Native Americans. So basically, we got to deal with things like that. So we got young people who are pushing back, and they're pushing back through activities like, as I say, speak outs, spoken word, registering people to vote, and to get people involved and so on like that, and also being civically engaged, and not only that, running for offices. Basically, if there are positions out there, then we need to fill it. We need to be the ones to fill it. We need the ones to be out there, taking care of business and so on like that. So that's basically some of the things that we're doing in terms of that we're engaging young people. And again, this thing about the future, no, we're engaging them now, because now is the time. People say, what time is it? It's nation time. So we need to be involved in the here, right now.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
On Periscope, one of the viewers asked a question that I thought would be good to ask the panel. The question was, what is social justice?
Social justice, I can just think of one thing that we say, wish nothing for your brother that you wouldn't wish for yourself. That's a big aspect of it in terms of dealing with social justice, wishing, and it is, again, I think, and the Imam laid it out very eloquently in terms of it's the love and the care, for one another. Basically, you can't just care for yourself. You deal with this thing about the Arab world, or sometimes referred to as the immigrant world. But it's and the thing I wanted to just, because you made a beautiful comment, and I'm digressing, so please indulge me just for a quick second. But you said about the woman who threw something trash against Muhammad's in front of his home and everything like that. And she had done all these horrible things to him. But when he heard that she was sick, he went to visit her. And she said, Muhammad, how did you know I was sick? And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't try to recriminate and say, you know that all that stuff you did and all that everything. He said, that thing that you used to do, I missed it. That was his response. See the adab of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, no acrimony, no get back. Just that thing that you used to do, I missed it. So he went to visit. So social justice involves, transforming, using the power of our faith to transform. And that's what the thing is. Our faith is a transformational instrument to transform the nature within us and the nature around us.
Another question? All right.
Can I say
yeah,
something?
go ahead.
Sure. Yes. I believe what the Imam just laid it out. I just wanted to add, just to give you a picture of what social justice look like. Everything that we do in the action of our belief, these pillars of the faith, which is our foundation, is what Islam is built upon. These are actions that when we practice them, if you've ever noticed, all of them can be done in some way starting with the individual. But they're best magnified when done together. See? So even when we take Shahada or declaration of faith as the individual, we're joining on to such a larger reality. Then we're asked to make prayer. I can do it as an individual, but best when done in congregation. You see? We fast, but we fast especially during this month, Ramadan, right? So I can do voluntary fast throughout the year, and maybe that's for me. I'm trying to get some things together, but in the month of Ramadan, we have a better shot at goals because everybody trying their best to do the one thing together. I can give what I have that Allah has blessed me with in sadaqah or zakah, but I may only have a certain amount that I can afford to give. But when it's joined on to yours and the next one and the next one, then collectively we can address more than what the individual could address themselves. And when we go to Hajj, inshallah, we know we're not going to be alone. Though the intention may start personally. But eventually, when I get to the acting on it, I'm going to be with millions of people. So what's my point? Social justice is when you can invite an individual into something and show them through the action and demonstration of our own Iman that what became possible for us is possible for them. But it's like the little baby that's just born. It's alive, it's breathing, but it needs that connection to that mother whose womb it's been in for 40 weeks, so the mother holds it on the outside now. And we are never in a position as Muslims that we don't need that natal care, see, that the baby needs. So when we greet each other, we can give that cold greeting, assalamu alaikum, and you keep people at a distance, or real Muslims embrace each other. Why? Because I could have just come out of that dunya and gone through hell on my job. But social justice is, when I see my Muslim brother, assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam, man, and we hug, I feel a little bit better. Lastly, I walked into a place, right? And I was wild and crazy. And the people in it never judged me. They showed me love. And so to a 15-year-old, I never experienced no love like that. And they knew I was 15 and wild and crazy with a crazy looking haircut. But they said, Keep on coming, brother. Come on, we'll pick you up. And I missed a couple when there was somebody outside my door. Where you been at? I said, man, the brother came over here to check on me. He said, yeah, we miss you. And 27 years later, here I am. That's social justice. The greatest social justice is dawah. Getting wisdom and knowledge and faith and then going to give it to somebody else that's in need. Assalamu alaikum.
Any other questions?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Carlos made an excellent point about let the justice roll from our iman, roll from our faith. When Ali was the Khalifa, he had lost his armor, Brother Carlos, and someone found it. It was a Christian who found it. And so Ali went to him and said, I want my armor back. He said, this is my armor. So Ali took him to the judge, the court system. When he went to the court system, it was a Muslim court. The judge says, whose arm is it? Both of them raised their hand. Ali then said, I haven't sold it, nor have I lost it, nor have I given it away, but I lost it. The Christian man said, I don't view him as being a liar, but it's mine. The judge then turned to Ali and said, do you have proof it's yours? Ali started laughing. He said, no, I don't have proof. The judge then ruled in favor of the Christian. Ali said, you made the correct decision. The Christian man walked out of the court with the armor, but he stopped. And he turned around and he came back. And he said, this is nothing but justice. And I'm seeing it coming from the Muslims, and as a result, I now say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he walked over to Ali and gave him the armor. Ali looked at him as if he was crazy. Ali said, wait a minute. You just said, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, I give it back to you. He gave the armor back to him. So let our faith reign supreme. Last, I want to say this. How just are we to our Lord? Allah demands of us to make five salats a day. Are you just? Because Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that He has rights over us. Don't think that you can be just to your fellow mankind and you refuse to be just to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah commands us to fast. Are we giving an honest effort? Allah commands of us to do unto our brother as we want to do unto ourselves. Allah commands us to be good to our wives. That's justice. Allah puts these commands and these mandates in place. Are we failing Allah? If we fail Allah, it's going to be easy to fail our brothers and sisters. May Allah guide us, and may Allah protect us, and may Allah shower us with the light of understanding.
Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum wa
Ameen.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ameen.
I'd like to give Inshirah another chance to speak. Do you want to speak on that? I had a question prepared already. Do you want to? Yeah. Yes,
You have a question?
yes, I do.
Okay. I'll answer the question.
Yeah, okay. What resources are currently available that we can be used as a community to help fight the injustice around the stigmas with mental illness?
Well, there are a lot of organizations in D.C. I had a list. I can share them right now, or you can come see me after, because there are several different organizations you can work with. Every organization wants help. They want volunteers. They want to teach you and educate you, because this is something that we need as a community. This is something that we need as a world to talk about. So these organizations are their doors are open. So I can give you just a couple. One is NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness in DC. That's on 8th Street. You can Google them. Another is the National Behavioral Council, and they have an office in DC. And basically just finding the time to really reach out, because like we said, 1 in 5 Americans have mental illness or will be faced with a mental health issue. So this is something that we need to address.
All right. Thank you. I want to give our panelists a minute to give us a wrap up piece. starting with Imam Mahdi.
Well, first of all, let me just say I'm really grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to be here at this historical masjid. It's been a long time. In fact, I had gone through quite a bit, in terms of health, and to be able to be here during the month of Ramadan and to be with all of you all, and to be able to be here and to walk and to talk, because a little while ago I couldn't do that, but it's all from the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My mother said to me, in terms of dealing with social justice, when I was laying in my bed, had that stroke, and I saw Keith Ellison on the television pushing back against that bigot called Peter King in New York, and everything, and I was coming out of a coma, and I saw that on television, and I made dua. I said, "Oh Allah, just give me strength to do more. Just give me strength to do more." And my mom told me, from her deathbed, she said, "Son, Allah didn't spare you for nothing." You see, so we have to understand that Allah's gift to us is His life that He's given us, and our gift to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not that He needs anything from us, but our gift that we should give to Allah is what we do with our life.
I'm very grateful to be on this panel, and just to wrap up, when I think of social justice, I think of if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. We have to have the courage. We have to have the courage to be the best version of our own selves, because when we are the best version of our own selves, everyone around us will be enlightened by our light. We all don't have the same gifts. We all don't have the same understanding, but we all have light that can be a guide for others. So have the courage to stand up for yourself and to stand up for others.
As I reflect upon the Quran and reflect upon kind of what we see, especially those of us that have lived a little while, sometimes it can be quite disheartening to see the condition of the society in which we live, also the drama of what is going on in the Muslim world right now and the pain of that, knowing that we have the best religion, we have the best book, we have the best guidance. And sometimes as our iman can be challenged, when we see that, but we find comfort in this verse. He it is that sends His messenger with the guidance and the true religion, and He will cause it to prevail over all the other religions, though the polytheists may be averse. Despite all of the media, Islam is still the fastest growing religion in the world. No matter what they do to put out the light, because Allah says they attempt to put out the light of Allah with their mouths. See? They can't do it. So be comforted to know that even though we're in the midst of turmoil, we still have our work to do. And hold your head high. Don't go retreat and hiding because it looks like they're winning. They won't win because Allah is showing us they can do all of that. We're still going to prevail. France right now is 10% Muslims and growing. As we heard the biggest name from Imam Abdullah Hakim Quick this morning, the biggest name in the world is Muhammad, the most popular name in the world. In the UK, it's the #1 name in the United Kingdom. It used to be Harry. I learned something this morning. So lastly, dear Muslims, it's cloudy out tonight, but if we probably could see the moon, it might not be there because it will probably be the Hilal moon. Can't see it, but we watched that beautiful moon that came in declaring Ramadan go through its phases and eventually begin to wane away. And so the month that we have grabbed to is shortly leaving us. But hold on to the gains of Ramadan. Hold on to the spirit of Ramadan. And let us go forward. And I ask that Allah bless every Muslim on the planet, that we have gained and that we will prevail after Ramadan, and that He will bless us all with a beautiful Eid. But there may be places where the Eid may not be as celebratory as it should be due to circumstances. But so let us count our blessings when we're at an Eid that is not surrounded by death and carnage and bombs and things. Let us give thanks and praise to Allah and make dua for them, because we're in a world now that wants to trouble our Islam. But don't be troubled by the shaitan. He's just there to make trouble. And if he didn't make trouble, we wouldn't know whether or not Allah is real, because He always comes to our aid and we prevail over it all. So thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
I just wanted to conclude with this thought, and that is this, that basically we have to be courageous. My grandmother used to say, God don't like no coward soldiers. See? So we have to be courageous. We have to stand up and we have to speak up. And so therefore, and be, as I said, follow the footsteps of the prophets. All the prophets. All the prophets spoke up. All the prophets spoke up. And all the prophets were a voice for the voiceless. So let's find our voice and be a voice for the voiceless. And as we said, lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven rings. Ring with the harmony of liberty, and facing the rising sun. For our new day has begun. Let us fight on till victory is won.
I'd like to once again thank our panelists and thank you all for attending this great panel discussion. This panel was recorded, so it will be available via the Masjid's YouTube page and on the website for sharing. You can watch again. You want to go over anything, learn. If you came in late, you can find out what you missed at the beginning, but it's a dynamic panel. I'd like to again thank you all. And once again, on behalf of Imam Talib Sharif, the board of directors here at the Masjid, Muhammad I believe is here. Thank you all for coming, and assalamu alaikum. We will be need brothers to help out, take chairs downstairs, the blue chairs, for iftar. Yes, sir.